Hey there Facebook, it is Vanessa here, your motivational speaker, trainer and head coach from Live, Love, Give. And today's message is all about the quality of your relationships being in direct proportion to your ability to be courageously vulnerable. And it's an important one. I know you guys out there who've been following me for a while have definitely heard me talk about vulnerability being a strength, and not only being a strength, but I believe that it is the greatest human strength, is that ability to be vulnerable. And what I've come to discover over time in my relationships, friendships, connections, is that the importance to me of depth of connection. And I had a journey throughout my life where I had many connections and many friends and we had so much fun, but we didn't really have any depth, and I wasn't fully aware of that at the time. And what I've done is, the more I've discovered about myself, the more vulnerable I've been able to be with myself about, uncovering who it is that I am, what it is that I want, and having the courage to go after it and own up and be honest with myself. The more that I've stepped away from those more superficial connections and relationships, and the more I've stepped fully into depth of connection with other human beings. And the reason why I was inspired to sort of bring this message to you guys today was that just a couple of nights ago, I was on a phone conversation with an incredible, fairly recent friend of mine, and we were having a conversation. And one of the questions that they asked me was, what's your worst fear in our relationship? Like, what would be the worst thing for you, say for me to think about you or any of that sort of stuff? What would it be for you? And we had this incredibly vulnerable conversation about, our fears in that particular relationship. Like, what was it? What were we so fearful of if the other person thought that about us, or whatever, that relationship went a certain way? What was our deepest fear in that relationship and in that connection? And we just came up with, when you get your fears out, you realize how crazy they are. And that's exactly what happened for the two of us. But ultimately in our connections, we're getting around with all these underlying subconscious limiting beliefs and fears that hold us back from being vulnerable, from stepping fully into showing all of who we are and experiencing all of who we are, and giving that other person the opportunity to know all of who we are. And ultimately, we're letting these subconscious fears that we're too scared to address drive the friendship or drive the relationship and drive that connection. And it is when we face those fears, and particularly if you can do that with a friend or a partner, wow, just having that one conversation with this new friend of mine, our depth of connection just went so much deeper. Like we became so much more grounded in our connection, and also addressing those fears allowed us to be like, oh my God, I would never think that about you. I could never get to that point with you. And it was just such a good lesson of reassurance as to how strong you feel when you address your fears and you show vulnerability, and the level of depth and connection that you can create with another when you have the courage to be vulnerable. So before I get going on, like always, I just want to definitely check in with you guys and see who's joined me. And I really want to know from you guys. Drop any comments below as to any questions, any comments around vulnerability and stepping more fully into that authentic, genuine vulnerability and that courage that it takes, or anything that you have to have a chat with me about. And just want to say hi to Graham and Caroline, John, nice to have you, and Judy. Awesome to have you, and Ibrahim, and Moises, nice to have you back, and Amani and Don, great to see you. Awesome, and Rian and Rajvia and Gary and Jumantus, and awesome, and Sabri and Nas and Rem and Elf. Awesome, guys. I can see somebody's just said here that my internet is crashing. I'm so sorry if this isn't going to work out. I've had some troubles with the internet. You guys know when I'm down here in Warrnambool, it just can't cut it down here, unfortunately. So I hope that it's okay. And Kaden, awesome to have you catching me live. I love having you here. So guys, that's really my message. I really just want this message, my purpose of bringing this message to you guys today is that I hope that it triggers you to question how vulnerable you are being in your relationships. Because, ultimately the quality of our relationships is determined by our ability to be courageously vulnerable and get those fears out into the open. Don't let those subconscious fears determine the course of your connection and limit its potential. Definitely, make it an ability for you to go deeper in your connection by being vulnerable. Value the relationship over your own limiting beliefs and fears so that you can ultimately create the depth of connection that we all truly crave, no matter what type of relationship, whether that's a friendship, intimate partner, whatever it is. Vulnerability is your biggest, greatest strength at building depth of connection. And so I really hope that this inspires you to just question yourself as to how vulnerable you are being in your relationship and how much you're just letting those subconscious fears sort of stack and they're kind of determining the course of the relationship, rather than being able to go deep and really experience, an extraordinary quality of relationship with another human being. So, definitely Ram, courageously vulnerable. It is the theme of the day. And glad to see you too, Robin. And awesome, Juventus. Grateful that this is resonating with you. But really, that is my message for you guys today. Like I said at the beginning, you guys know how much I talk into vulnerability being the greatest human strength, because I absolutely believe that. And I was on a call with one of my amazing clients just earlier, and we got talking about Tony Robbins, and I mentioned to him that, when I first saw Tony Robbins, like what draws people to him and definitely drew me to him was his ability to be so courageously vulnerable. To an audience of thousands and thousands of people, he just showed genuine vulnerability, and that tugs at our heartstrings as human beings. There is nothing more beautiful than seeing somebody be courageously vulnerable. It shows others what's possible. It inspires each of our greatnesses to go for it. It inspires us to step up courageously and believe in ourselves more fully. It builds that depth of connection to humanity, not just the other individual. So I really hope that you are going to go out there today, wherever you are in the world, and you are going to be consciously, courageously vulnerable, and for the purpose of building depth of connection with yourself and with other people in your life, and ultimately that connection that you have with humanity as a whole. That's where it comes from, that oneness, that connection. It all comes from your ability to be courageously vulnerable and share genuinely. So I really hope that this resonates with you guys. Definitely Ram, courageously vulnerable is the foundation for meaningful relationships. I absolutely love that. And love that you love Tony. Awesome, guys. That is it from me today. If you have any last questions, comments, feedback, anything that you want to have a chat with me about right here, right now, then definitely drop it in the comments. I have been meeting so many of you incredible human beings out there, and I have loved every single minute of it. I love getting to see whereabouts you are from every corner of the globe. I love to see, your passion, your direction, and potentially a lot of people that I'm meeting at the moment are going through a lot of transitions, whether that's a transition out of a relationship, a career path, in their health, wherever it is, they're in that transitional period. And sometimes when we're in that transitional period, it's really challenging because we're losing our old identities and we're creating a new identity and a new compelling future for ourselves. And it can be a scary place, but I like to think of it as a truly exciting place. So I hope that if that's you out there, if you're going through a transition right now, I hope that you are focused on the excitement, the potentiality of what is possible for you, and getting to that next level of your potential. And I would absolutely love to meet you and help you navigate that in any way possible. So definitely book in a 15-minute power session with me, and let's see how I can help support you and guide you on that journey. I'd absolutely love that. And yeah, that's any more questions here? I'll just double check before I go on there. Misty, I love watching from the States. Awesome. I'm not comfortable with being vulnerable. He's not either. Can you explain? Yes, so the more we get attached and clear on who we really are and what we really want in our lives, and then we have integrity about aligning with our truth, the more we are able to be genuinely, courageously vulnerable. But I really like to believe, so it's always about that foundational piece of relationship with self, most definitely, right? But what I would also say is that you need to shift your beliefs around what you believe vulnerability is, because a lot of society, reinforces to us that vulnerability is a weakness. Like, big girls don't cry, or boys don't cry, or, don't show your vulnerability, don't tell them that, don't give that away, and ultimately that's what keeps us stuck, because we have this belief that vulnerability is a weakness, and it is so totally not. And that's why I want to encourage each and every one of you to think back to a moment in time where you have seen genuine vulnerability, not from a place of weakness, from an actual place of strength. And if you haven't seen that, I challenge you to go to Tony Robbins' work, because you'll see it left, right, and center. And it is so inspirational, particularly I believe for men out there, to get more vulnerable and attached to sharing what's actually going on for them, because they can see a truly strong, masculine, incredible human being of a man, step into that courage and that vulnerability. And I just think it is truly inspiring. So you have to shift your belief around vulnerability. Make sure that you are doing the work that you know, and you're seeking the evidence around you that shows and reinforces to you that vulnerability is the absolute biggest human strength, greatest strength, and greatest gift that you can give to another human being, because you inspire the truth of who they are to come forth as well. So I appreciate you coming up with that question there, Misty. I hope that what I've just mentioned to you there has resonated with you. It has made sense to you. So let me know. Definitely, and feel free to book in a 15-minute power session with me if you want me to work with you one-on-one on that. I'd love to help you. Thank you, Moises, and Jelma, thank you for joining. Appreciate you, Moises, and Headley, nice to have you, love to you, and Hassani does resonate. Awesome, grateful to hear that. And Caden, I've had trouble with this because I was hurt years ago. Now only having a few business partners rather than friends. Any advice on breaking through this? Yeah, so definitely what I would suggest there, Caden, is that like I was just saying in terms of what Misty had questioned there, you have to shift your beliefs around vulnerability, or what you believe vulnerability to be. So make sure that you are doing the work to convert or shift those beliefs from vulnerability being a weakness to vulnerability being a real strength. And then you've got to do the foundational piece of relationship with yourself, which is all about having integrity with yourself, knowing who you are, knowing what you want, and actually aligning with that and taking the action towards being in alignment, being truthful to yourself, following through with integrity on your word to yourself. And ultimately, that is what is going to allow you to open up to building that depth of connection with others, because you're trusting of yourself. You're trusting of your ability to handle it. You're trusting of your ability to be courageously vulnerable, and you see it as a strength, and that ultimately allows you to open up more fully to building quality and depth in your relationships. Caden, I really appreciate you asking that question. I really hope that what I've said there did resonate and added value to you. Make sure you let me know there. And Asim, nice to have you. Much love to you. And awesome, Misty. I'm so grateful that resonated. That's awesome. And yes, definitely, Ram. It's a strength. And it gets you out of your comfort zones. Definitely. Vulnerability is so good to get you out of your comfort zone and build that resilience, build your trust within yourself. It is a powerful, powerful force, which I hope that each and every one of you are motivated and inspired to step more fully into, shift any negative, disempowering beliefs you have about vulnerability, because ultimately, I really do believe that the purpose of all of our lives is to love and be loved. And I'm talking to the full depth of what that is. So without vulnerability and without recognizing vulnerability as our greatest strength, you'll never get that depth and you'll never live our lifetime purpose. So I really encourage you to do this work. It is some of the most powerful work you'll ever do in your life. And I really hope that this is awesome for you. Tatiana, awesome to have you. Thank you so much. Grateful that you're loving this message. And Sean, awesome to have you. And Caden, yes, I'll really take this to heart. Awesome. I'm so grateful that what I've explained to you has resonated. That warms my heart. I'm grateful for that. And Hassani, can you speak on having a written journal that you open up in? Should we be okay with anyone reading it? Awesome. I love that question, Hassani. Thanks guys for all your questions today. I love being on the spot here with you guys. It gives me so much energy. So Hassani, what I would say to you with that is definitely, having a written journal to open up to your own vulnerability and get that stuff out of the internal into the external so that you can really see what's going on for yourself. Particularly if you're, so if you're wanting to build that vulnerability piece, and definitely. But what I would also say to you is that I really love what Brené Brown says about vulnerability. And vulnerability, like strength of vulnerability, doesn't mean you have to share with every single person your whole life and all your struggles and the depth of what pulls at your heartstrings and all of that sort of stuff. Sometimes strength of vulnerability is about having boundaries. And it's about having healthy boundaries. And so what I would say to you there, Hassani, is definitely having a written journal. That is a great way to tap into the truth of who you are, what you want, and create those action plans as to going forth and going for it, and uncovering what those beliefs are and being able to shift them so that you can make that vulnerability a strength. But what I also would say is that you do not have to let anybody read that stuff. I do believe that with the people in your life that you want to create, you have an intention of creating real depth with. I would say that, sometimes we need to have a level of courage to share with somebody for that purpose of creating depth, but we need to be certain enough within ourselves before we share things sometimes, because if we are potentially going to share something that's very deep, very vulnerable for us, that we haven't worked through, that we're not sure of, we can often tend to be very attached to the response of the person that we share it with. And that can be just like a dagger to the heart when they don't respond in the way that we're expecting them or needing them to. So what I would say to you is do the work on you first, and then have an intention to share this piece of your vulnerability with another human being that you want to create real depth with, that you have a level of trust with. And from that place, set the intention as to why you're doing it, and question yourself before you do it about, if this person, what is the worst way that this person could respond to this? And how am I going to show up if that's how they respond? There is so much personal growth to be had in your ability to do the work on you, and then open the floor up to a select few that you want to really go deep with that intention, and do the work at being intentional about how you want to be responding and what's the worst possible scenario as to their response, how you're going to handle that. And then you get to a point of incredible courage and strength because you become resilient, you're trusting in yourself. And you take the power from the external, all that validation and neediness that you may be seeking, and you put it within yourself so that no matter how they respond, you can see it for their own fears being triggered rather than meaning anything about you, so you don't have to identify with it. And there's so much power in that process. So Hassani, did that help? I really hope that, you know, the way I answered that for you has resonated. It's made sense. It's added some value. So definitely let me know if that wasn't clear. And thank you so much for your question. I absolutely loved that. And Kyle, awesome to have you. Awesome guys. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Make sure if you have any last questions, just drop them down for me in the comments right here, right now, and I'll answer them for you. But ultimately, that's my message to you guys. You know, I'm always talking into quality relationships because I really do believe that, you know, like Tony Robbins says, the quality of our life is in direct proportion to the quality of our relationships. And my message for you guys today is all about the quality of your relationships being in direct proportion to your ability to be courageously vulnerable. And you know, I hope that this message inspires you to question, what are your beliefs around vulnerability? Do you think of it as a weakness, like most of society? Or are you ready to make the shift into shifting up that belief so that you can know in your heart of hearts that vulnerability is your greatest human strength? And most of us allow that strength to go untapped for the rest of our lives. And then we get to the end and we wonder why we've been so unfulfilled. And ultimately it's because we never created true depth in our relationships, because we didn't have the courage to be genuinely, authentically, courageously vulnerable. So hope that was great for you guys. Thanks, Asani. I'm so grateful that resonated with you. And awesome, Kyle. Enjoy the gym. So that is it from me today. I really hope, like I do each and every day, that my messages are triggering you to empower yourself to step more fully into your greatness, you know, to stop holding yourself back, to be courageous, to uncover a new layer of who you are, of what you want, and have the courage to go after it and ultimately create the life of your dreams that is filled with fulfillment and depth of connection. And guys, so that's it from me. Thank you so much, Delma. I'm grateful to hear that this is valuable for you. And guys, I will see you all tomorrow. If you have any suggestions as to any particular topics that are really juicy to you at the moment that you'd love for me to do a presentation on, or just get on this Facebook Live with you, I'd absolutely love to hear from you, so let me know. And absolutely any questions, you guys know by now, I absolutely love answering your questions. I love whatever you throw at me. It's so much fun to me. So, and my hope is that it will add value to you. And if it's a question that you have, no doubt so many people have that question as well. So I'd absolutely love to hear that from you. And definitely, like I said, book in a 15-minute power session with me if you haven't already, because I want to meet you. I want to help you break through. And I really ultimately want to get you on your path, feeling that clarity, that direction, that purpose, and ultimately that depth of connection in all of your relationships. So definitely let me know. And guys, that's it from me today. Thank you so much, Moises. You have a great day too. And I will see you all tomorrow, sending you all of my love, light, energy, blessings, gratitude, everything coming at you. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow.